We're going to go ahead and wrap up our media availabilities tonight with our race winner, Austin Cindric. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us about your race.
We finally finished one of these, so that was cool. No, I mean, just to be able to win at this track or win in the Cup Series, I mean, it's such a challenging thing to do, and you know, a total team effort, you know, every step of the way for that final stage for us to be able to get that done, and you know, for that to go green there at the end, and you know, have a car capable, a team capable, all the things, and have it all come together. It's really gratifying. It's definitely a relief given how a lot of these have gone, and you know, it doesn't make me any special or different. You know, these things go up in flames for most, so just super grateful for the opportunity to be able to come through with a win.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and open up for questions. If you have one, please raise your hand, and we'll get a mic over to you. We'll go to Bob, then Jacob, then John.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. Why are you still wearing that wreath?
If you won the Talladega 500 and they gave you a wreath, wouldn't you wear it too?
Maybe for a little bit of time, but not sure.
Well, your concept of a little bit of time might be different than mine. I'm going to try and walk on the plane with this thing. Is that like geometrically or like mentally? Are you going to take that from her?
Yeah, I mean, truth hurts. And I'm just curious, what, you know, the last couple of months have been kind of a roller coaster for you. So what does this win? I mean, obviously the Daytona 500 is probably another level, but where does this moment kind of rank in your career for considering the last couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, it's kind of been a roller coaster. There's kind of been one thing keeping us from excellence in a lot of weekends in a row, and you know, I think there's a lot of different avenues you can take with it. One, just what I started off with, how difficult it is to win the Cup Series and be in the playoffs, but two, you know, how many of these races I feel like we've put ourselves in position in as a company, let alone just on the two car, and you know, all those stacked up together definitely have some emotions behind it when it's all over, but even just with the surprise, and you don't know until you get to the last couple of feet of these races, and to be able to win it under green and do it all the right ways as a team at the end. I don't see a more complete team win, you know, at some of these racetracks than what we had today.
We'll come here in the middle to Jacob. Right here, and then to John.
Jacob Zillman, Raceface Digital Austin 2 for you. First, dominated Daytona. Didn't get to fight for it at the end. Penske as a whole dominated Atlanta. You didn't get to fight for it at the end. Is it a weight off your shoulders, a relief, a finally? What is it for being able to put all the pieces together after how good you've been on drafting tracks this year?
I don't believe in luck. I believe in the law of averages, and you know, my faith continues to be restored. Sometimes I have to have more patience in the law of averages, but you know, you keep swinging the bat the right way, and eventually you're going to hit a homer. And like I said before, the guys on the team and everybody, you know, it knocked it out of the park there, that final stage.
You talk about, you know, believing in yourself. I hear the confidence in your voice after a win like this. You had one last year. You had one this year. You've had speed just about everywhere this year. Does it feel like you and this team are finally starting to, you know, not just have flashes, but get to a point where you guys can be front runners every single week?
I mean, I think if you're not building, you're failing. So for us, it's been a constant progression. You know, I feel like you saw that in the playoffs with this team, and you know, there's not a single man on this team, on this two car, that I would change or swap out or think that somebody else could do a better job. You know, I think the belief is there. You know, the process is there. The mentality is similar, and we're all pushing in the right direction, in the same direction. And I feel like a race like this just continues to solidify that for us. And it's what makes going to work exciting for me. It's why I show up to the shop most days. It's why I put so much into it, and I believe that's reciprocated, you know, from everybody from the top down on this two car.
We'll go to John, then Jordan over here, and then to Jenna, and then to Holly.
John Newby, Savage Ventures. So I was talking to some Toyota guys, and they said that, you know, the race-winning move was running 7 laps longer than them, pitting late in the third stage, and they view that as kind of a reaction to what they did in stage 2 by short pitting. I already got Brian's input. I was curious, can I get your thoughts on how you feel about that strategy and how it ultimately played out for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think that group did probably the most organized effort of kind of changing the way the race looked. and I feel like it took a lot of guys off guard, and it took me a minute to really analyze, where the strengths and weaknesses in that were going to be. I feel like they probably don't have the best advantage on fuel mileage. I feel like they've picked their speed up, but I feel like they played their hand, and it's the ability to counter it, right? I mean, they used a lot of fuel to lead a lot of laps, and I think being able to counter that, and not have a caution come out in the cycle, that's critical. The cautions are the wild card for all of it. So be able to have a clean cycle there and get through it. But I thought that they did a pretty standout job of being organized. Probably, like I said, probably better than we've seen at most of these races.
We'll go to Jordan, and then to Jenna, then Holly.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. Not just yourself, Ryan, Joey. You guys have had a lot of near misses this year, races maybe you guys should have won but haven't. What's the mood been around? What's the mood been like at Team Penske as these races have kind of slipped away from you?
I think a combination from encouragement to heads beating against the table, right? I mean, you kind of have 4 or 5 days to get over yourself. Try not to let that bleed into each week, but just being able to watch guys like Ryan and Joey. I mean, these guys are champions, and they go through adversity just like the next guy. No different than how these races play out. So to be able to, I guess misery loves company in some ways. I feel like Ryan's got his fair share of tough breaks so far this season, and I know that there's a lot of strength in our company, and a win like this only helps the whole team, be able to push forward in the same direction. No different than really the 21 car winning at Vegas this year, and now with us, I think a concentrated effort to get all our cars in the playoff is first priority, and I think this only helps concentrate that.
What were your thoughts today on the package overall and the ability to pass? Some drivers after the race said they couldn't do anything, and they were kind of the victim of you victim of your surroundings, and you were stuck kind of where you were.
I mean, the package itself hasn't changed. The tires themselves haven't changed. The track itself hasn't changed. It's the only thing I think in this next gen era that hasn't changed, other than a few bits and pieces. So, from that standpoint, it is solely about the decisions of the drivers and the teams, and being able to react to that. So whether if that was easy or hard, I mean, there's plenty of times today that I was trapped in lanes that I didn't want to be in. So it's about understanding that and finding a way, and if not, let others find a way and show you the way. So it's a very odd type of racing, and it's very difficult to explain, especially now with all the dynamics that we have that aren't just about the racing, about the strategy, about the packages, about strengths and weaknesses as an OEM. So there's a lot going on that's I guess hard to describe to someone who's just watching the TV screen. Yep.
We'll go to Jenna, then to Holly, and then to Keegan over here.
Jenna Fryer, AP. I've got 2 questions for you, Austin. The first one is, how much motivation, if any, and this is a question I asked Brian as well, do you guys, the 2 team, take over the success of Ryan and Joey, and then you guys not equaling it? Like, does that light a fire under you?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly anytime you can have an example set, and trying to, at a bare minimum, not just meet that example, but, I want to be better. I want to be the best, right? And just being as good, in my mind, as far-fetched as it might seem as a 2-3 year Cup driver to say, I want to be better than the champion. I mean, that's how you got to think. I mean, I commit way too much of my time. I ask a lot out of the people that I work with, and I try to reciprocate with that. But the as good is not good enough in my mind. So is it a motivator? Perhaps. I look at it as an example, and as a competitive advantage for us to be able to have that type of example in-house.
Second question is, after the second stage on his radio, Joey was furious with you over the 23 winning the stage.
Yep.
After the race, he was much calmer, glad to see one of us win it. Like, how long does that stuff last between teammates, and does it ever have to be addressed in-house?
Yeah, I mean, I think the situation you described, I felt like I kind of just got pinched and was trying not to wreck the cars in front of me, including Joey. So it was a messy end of the stage that I feel like between myself and the 21 and Joey probably could have done better, because I feel like we did let one slip there. So I can understand his frustration without kind of seeing the whole picture. But yeah, those are the types of things that when you're expecting someone to have your best interest, those are the challenges, right? And we have a lot of meetings centered around that. and I feel like it's a constant, requires constant maintenance, and it's not always pretty, and the conversations aren't always easy, but I do feel like as a team we do it better than most. So I think that's something we'll definitely be talking about tomorrow as far as how to do it better and understand all sides and be better for it. I think that would be very immature. So no, I don't see him doing that.
Unlike wearing the wreath.
That's right. No, we'll see. I don't know if it'll fit through the door or not, but we're gonna try. That's right. That's right.
We'll go to Holly and then to Keegan.
Hi, Austin. Congratulations on
Thank
the win. My first question to you is, how worried or concerned were you about the two Hendrick cars behind you? Did you feel like you guys were, in a good place? You weren't as concerned with them? What was that like?
Yeah, I felt like the key to winning that race there for me, maybe not the key, but one of the keys was the 60 car getting clear, because I was in a position to where I don't think that I would have been able to expect a Hendrick car to push me past another Hendrick car for a win. Shoes on the other foot. I don't see that happening. For us either. So, being able to having that 60 car clear and basically just having two Hendrick pushers, and at that point those guys are just selfishly trying to, get points and push the line forward to where they can get clear. So, I thought that was pretty critical because I feel like those guys always find a way to the front together, and they were definitely in a position to contribute for their own company.
And my second question, real quick, is kind of along the lines of what Jordan was asking you, and that was, Penske organization as a whole has led so many laps, and I know for Joey to just now be getting his first top 10 of the season, and Ryan has had the frustration. How do you feel like the team is ultimately very strong and still, the major contender that we all think of it is as a defending team? I mean, how important was this to get this win today?
I mean, it's huge for us. I mean, obviously a playoff berth is worth its weight in gold. But as far as the team is concerned, yeah, I feel like, and I mean no offense to this, I feel like everyone in front of me worries a lot more about the stat board than we do. I mean, performance metrics mean a lot more than a few check boxes on stats. Maybe some stats is, average running position or laps led throughout the year. And I feel like as a company we've been pretty strong at that, especially where we've been maybe at this point in the season in years past. So. I feel like between, especially Ryan, Joey, myself, Josh, I mean, I feel like we're bringing a lot of good things to the racetrack to continue to build towards the end of the season. Thank you.
We'll come over here to Keegan.
Keegan Miller, Eagle Eye TV. You spoke about the mob mentality at these tracks and being able to recognize it and react. What did you see in the mob that was able to make you stand out and win?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the details there was the Toyotas having their own strategy there and running hard, and I feel like that played a pretty key role in the third stage and how that played out. But even throughout the race, trying to figure out how to counteract that, or even just continuing to evolve how the cars drive, and when maybe the third lane comes in, when maybe you should use fuel or maybe not, or tendencies from other drivers throughout the race, or handling tendencies from other drivers throughout the race. So there's a part of me that's glad these races are this long, because it gives you a lot of time to watch. But also it gives, I felt like the field was a lot more refined. I feel like in stage one everyone was a little confused, even in stage two, and then stage three it was kind of go time. How do we maximize, what everybody putting their best foot forward? No different than most weeks in stage three. Everybody's made adjustments to their cars and made their cars better, and it's a lot harder to pass because of it. So I think that's a lot of what played into today's race.
We'll go in the back to Tracy.
Hi, this is Tracy with Novel Photos. What have you learned today that's going to help in the next races?
Yeah, well, I look at Talladega's in the playoffs. It's a race that can change your season. It changed my season last year, and I think having a good notebook is important for when we come back here, but also go back to Daytona. Continuing to build on a package that we ran this year at the 500, and continue to grow the notebook. And I think that's one thing that's made our team stronger. As we've gone on the two cars, just a lot of young guys with maybe not a ton of firsthand experience, that we're now starting to get that notebook. We're now starting to be able to bring things to the table, to the team that are impactful. Myself as a driver as well. So I think those are the things you can take away from races like today.
We'll take one last question from Jacob.
Austin, you talked about kind of the defining moment there being Ryan getting clear, so it was two Fords leading the two lines. But we've heard so many others from behind talk about how difficult it was to pass and make moves. What was the challenge? I know you can't speak to Ryan, but for you, what was the challenge of being able to kind of manage those runs from behind and prevent anybody from being able to generate a third lane or make a move to kind of shuffle you guys in the final couple laps?
Yeah, well, it's funny, you get to kind of those points in the race and you're actually, relying on a lot more experience than you are kind of reacting to your surroundings, because, it's probably only 15 laps where we're running, at that pace, and understanding what's happening. So I feel like we've been in that position a lot of times, and, it's always different on how you have to manage it. But the information that I need, I continually get from my team as far as, what I view as important. And those are all things that you just have to have in the moment. There's no time for me to ask questions. It's just about doing it, from the word go pretty much after you leave pit road. So I felt like I had all the information I needed to manage or not manage depending on the scenario. And, it obviously worked in our favor.
Were you worried at all that it was going to come down to anybody besides you and Ryan, or at that last lap or two, you felt pretty confident it was between you two at that point?
I felt pretty confident it was between us, in a straight-up race. I've been in that position where I've gotten wrecked off the nose of another car, so I was doing a lot of focusing on the horizon, which it sounds funny, but that's what you do, to try and hang on the car, because, I said earlier that I felt like Kyle took care of me and pushed me in the right places and neglected to push me in the places that would maybe be irresponsible. So, I felt like I had the right person behind me to make the right moves there at the end to bring it home.
All right, Austin. Thanks for your time. Congratulations.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.